What if I told you there's a way to tackle PTSD without even spending a dime? And that it works wonders for veterans and first responders. You might say to yourself, that sounds good, but is it a dream? But it does sound like a dream, right? Well, my Transformers, my people, buckle up because today we're diving head first into a story, a great story, by the way, of resilience, innovation, and the fight to break the silence around mental health. Welcome to the Transform You Live show, where we make transformation happen one story at a time. Let's get it.
And we'll be right back. Come with me, let's rap. Take a trip and we back. And we'll be right back. I stand for what you stand for. Hey, I get on the mic and I transform. Follow me on this world tour. The asteroid that you can't avoid. Follow me.
Beautiful listeners and my Transformers, today we are continuing our transformative journey that we all call life. Marcus Hart, your guide as always on this journey. Now, if you're a veteran, a first responder, or even just someone who's walked through the battlefield of life, this episode is definitely for you. I got a guest today who's not just talking the talk, she's walking the walk and then some more. TMA is a veteran who's turned her personal battles into a beacon of hope for others through her work with the 22-0, an organization offering free PTSD sessions to veterans and first responders. Tia's helping to redefine what healing really looks like and what it should look like. Trust me, folks, you'll want to stick around for this one. And hey, if you're thinking, Marcus, how do you always find these incredible guests? Well, it's either divine intervention or my Google search game is on point. So, without further ado, Tia, let's dive in. How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you for having me on and letting me share my story and share the mission. Getting this information out is saving lives, it's changing lives, and that's why I do what I do. Most of my free time is spent sharing this information, trying to get it out to as many veterans and first responders as possible.
Yeah, and we were just talking about that. How you definitely is truly a veteran and a mental health advocate and someone who's been through the trenches, literally and figuratively. And I'm just curious about what lit your fire to not only navigate your own mental health journey, but become an advocate for others.
Absolutely. Mental health has been a lifelong struggle for me. I come from a long line of mental health issues that run in my family, alcoholism, and mental health disorders. And from the time I was young, I struggled with some hardships in the family. Dealing with the alcohol and stuff like that will leave you with a lot of trauma, especially as a child. When the brain is in its early development is when those traumas have the highest impact. So I took that into my teenhood, where I was one of the lucky ones that got bullied a lot in school for being different. And then that combined with having the issues at home was a huge struggle. And from the age, I believe around 17, I actually was put out on the street to survive on my own with no tools, no resources. And that, as you can imagine, added to the trauma that I was carrying along with me. And to escape that lifestyle, I then joined the military, which came with a whole nother, it just added to that suitcase, just adding to that, adding to the trauma suitcase, as I'll call it. And I mean, throughout my life, I've just faced from homelessness to financial hardship to bad relationships to, the childhood trauma it's like these layers. And as you're building these layers, it not only gets heavier, but it gets harder to unpack. It gets harder to diagnose. It gets harder to deal with it. And I feel like about when right around the time I was about to hit 40, so I guess around 39,
Mm-hmm.
I really hit a wall. And I'll say like mentally hit the all-time low, when you feel like, okay, I'm done. I can't really carry this suitcase anymore. It's too heavy. Um, I feel like I tried a lot of different, I've tried, some therapy, I've tried medications, and
Yeah.
just, it kind of felt like there was no answer. It felt like I was beyond help. It felt like it wasn't something I could fix. And I was literally at my point, like the rope was about to break, and I reached out to the VA. Um, and I had been in and out of the VA system for mental health, and none of it had helped me. I felt like it actually may have made things worse, being as stressful as it was to try to deal with their hoops and things you got to jump through
Yeah.
to try to get help. And nobody seemed to be listening to me. Like I said, they kept trying to diagnose me as bipolar, and I told them, I was like, man, I think this is from all the trauma that I've been facing. I've done a
Mm-hmm.
lot of research on trauma and how it affects the brain and PTSD. And of course, the way they want to say is, oh, you're a Google doctor, you think you know more than us. And I was like, this, if the symptoms fit, man, and the stuff that you guys have been doing isn't helping me, then why not take a different approach? Like they just kept pushing off the PTSD, which I thought was crazy because I feel like that should be a very common thing amongst military is,
Yeah.
most all of us have some form of PTSD. Why wouldn't you want to try to, focus on that and fix it? And
Mm-hmm.
so I actually ended up going to the mental health annex for like try to get emergency mental health care, and they literally turned me away and told me to call them in like 3 days. And like to somebody in a mental health crisis, 3 days might as well be 3 years.
Yeah.
You're literally clinging on every minute. You don't know if you're gonna make it. You don't know if you're gonna literally drive your car off a bridge. You're just at that point where you feel like you've got no hope left. I
Mm-hmm.
actually started calling civilian mental health facilities, and the minimum wait was usually 3 or 4 weeks for me to even speak with somebody to get an assessment. And it seemed like the only option I was given was to go either to the emergency room, to the psychiatric ward, or to get put into a psychiatric hold, which is like a 3 or 4 day minimum inside the VA. And I was like, well, for one, I'm not trying to get locked up. Like I'm not in a place where
Mm-hmm.
that feels very comfortable to me. The VA has been stress for me, so the thought of giving up all of my things and being locked in the VA was definitely not something I was even trying to consider. And also, I'm the main caregiver for my kids, and so to think of
Yeah.
trying to set up where I could just disappear for a minimum of 3 or 4 days just wasn't something that I could even consider. I didn't have that option. I don't have a lot of resources in that matter. And so I literally felt like, okay, this is it. Like this is the end of the road for me. I have shouted on the rooftop that I needed help, and it's not there. It's not available. They've given up on me. And so by the grace of the universe, I don't know what, my husband's best friend, he contacted my husband out of the blue,
Mm-hmm.
and he asked him if he had heard of 220. And of course, my husband doesn't really pay much attention to that stuff. He was like, no, I haven't heard of it. And he said, well, it's for veterans. And it's a session for PTSD that they offer for free for veterans and their family, immediate family members. We think that this would be good for Tia because she's always talking about mental health. And I've always been very open about my struggles on social media because I believe that opening up the conversation saves lives, and that silence is
Yeah.
a killer. Silence is a killer. If you're not talking about your struggle, you're way more likely to give up than if you have people behind you, giving you that motivation to keep going and to find resources. And so like I said, that I'm telling you, my rope that I was hanging from had like 3 threads left, and I was given the information for 22-0, and I didn't have much hope. I thought it was kind of nonsense that it was, talking over the phone was going to do any sort of, change for me after everything I'd been through. But at this point, I was desperate for help, and I was like, what can it hurt? It's not going to cost me anything. So I set up the appointment. They got me in really quick. I think it was like a matter of 24 to 48 hours. They had
Wow.
somebody call me to do the session. It's done over the phone, via phone, like a video chat, kind of like we're doing right now, so that
Mm-hmm.
they can see your body language as you're going through the session, and make sure that at any time, if your emotions start to get heightened, that they can decompress, because before you move forward, you have to be at a level state. You can't be in a high tense emotion. um and even like going through this, it's when I describe it to people, I tell them it's mostly like a breathing exercise mixed with a
Yeah.
visualization, that is just basically a way to reset your brain and take yourself out of fight or flight mode, and let your body drive itself naturally instead of through your PTSD and your trauma. The session took me about an hour. And there was I'd say about 2 or 3 times that I got elevated.
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly I was returned to a level state. And the best thing about this session that I love to tell people is that you don't discuss any details of your past. This is not talk
Wow.
therapy. This is not EMDR.
Yeah.
This is literally a visualization and breathing exercise. You do discuss feelings that you have felt, but you do
Mm-hmm.
not discuss any details whatsoever. So it's not going to put you, reliving those things. And what
Yeah.
some of those therapies, like the talk therapies, can actually make you worse, because you're having to relive those things. And this was designed by a veteran that suffered a traumatic brain injury, and so he wanted to make sure that it was going to be as accessible to veterans as possible. And a lot of people, they shy away from having to talk about the past things that they've gone through. And if they find out that they're going to have to rehash those things, they're like, nope, I'm good. I don't want to do it. And so that's the first thing I tell people. I'm like, hey, man, you don't have to talk about anything you've been through. And they're like, well, how's that going to work? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know how this works, but it works. I went through it. Like I said, I was about to turn 40. So it's been about 2.5 years, I believe. And I feel like not only has it worked, but it continues to develop. Like, it continues
Hmm.
to get better. I feel like I've only grown, and I haven't been through any more therapy since then. I have not taken any
Yeah.
mental health medication since then. I have purely been going off of this decompression, is what I call it. And I'd say the first 2 or 3 months, because I had so much baggage, I had like 40 years of collective trauma that I was decompressing. I was told after the session that I may feel tired, like I may feel worn down, to allow myself
Uh-huh.
to rest and to just take my time. And this was a process. This is not like a one and done, oh, you're fixed and it's over. This is going to be a process. Man, they were right, because I'm telling you, the day of my session, luckily my kids were out of town. So luckily I had access to take as much rest and time as I needed, because I want to say I slept for about 3 days with barely any,
Wow.
yeah, with barely any interaction with anything. With I wasn't really drinking anything. I wasn't getting up to do anything. I would kind of wake up and I'd be like, nope, I'm going back to sleep. So I literally slept for like 3 days. I think I lost like 10 or 12 pounds. And that's when it started to hit me. I was like, oh wow, like I really, that weight was a lot. Like, I don't think you really
Yeah.
realize
It's
what you're
literal weight.
carrying. Oh yeah, what you're
Yeah.
carrying until you let it go, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not affecting your brain the way it was, because my brain was so quiet, and that was actually kind of scary for me. After being in a brain that was completely chaotic and loud and just dark and all that for so long,
Mm-hmm.
it was very. I felt almost like I was broken. Like I was like, I'm not really thinking about anything, and this don't feel right. And so luckily 220 is very they're very open, as far as like you can contact them at any time if you have anything that you need. People are allowed to do the session multiple times if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough where that one session really hit me hard that I haven't done another one since. I have actually had a lot of things happen over the last 2.5 years. So I'll probably actually be doing another session here with them
Yeah. Get
soon.
that tune up.
Yeah, get the tune up,
Yeah.
because you collect things over the years. And just
Yeah.
because I fixed my trauma for the first 40 years doesn't mean that I'm not going to get PTSD again from something that happens
Mm-hmm.
today, tomorrow, in a couple years. But that's the best part about it, is that if any time you feel like you need to do a session again, they are always there. They're just the I wish that the VA was as responsive as 220, because I'm telling you, to not have to worry about waiting 3 weeks to 2 months for an
Yeah.
appointment, and to always have somebody ready to talk to you, and to like you said, if you need 2 or 3 sessions to get to where you're feeling good, they're going to do that for you. And I have referred a lot of veterans and first responders to 220 over the years. And every single person has come back to me saying, wow, I wish I would have done that sooner. And I'm like, I told you. I said, don't you wait, because when I give you this information, if you don't jump on it and you don't do it right away, you're going to regret how long you waited, how much time went by that you had to continue living in that chaos. So that's why, if you say what lit the fire under me, it was seeing what could be done, seeing how much progress could be made with such a simple thing. Something that took me 1 hour decompressed 40 years of trauma. And not only
Yeah.
did it do that, but it launched me into being more like sure of myself, having this like confidence that I never had before. Cause I mean, I had no self confidence. I felt absolutely awful about myself before I went through that session. And I didn't have the motivation to reach out to, corporations, or to just
Yeah.
walk up and talk to anybody about my passion and what I wanted to do with life. And so to see that, okay, this session saved my life. How many people can I help, and
Right.
save their lives? How many people can I stop from, taking their own lives, and then turning around, and how many people will they help in return? Because once you go through something like this, you're going to want to tell people, when you experience something so life changing, you're gonna, like, I talk to every single person I see that looks like a veteran, has a veteran hat on, has veteran sticker. I talk to every single one of them, and I'm like, hey, do you know what 220 is? And they're like, most of them say no. And so that's what we were talking about before we started recording, is my main goal is to integrate this into everyday life where
Right.
everybody knows what it is. It's super accessible. Try to get it integrated into the VA, because a lot of veterans, they just assume that their main option is to go to the VA for help. And just to let them know that there are resources out there that are extremely powerful, that they have access to. It doesn't matter where they live. And like I said, it's free of cost, so they don't have to worry about any sort of financial hardship. So that's how I got the fire lit under me. And
Yeah.
I used to do art, but I am chronically ill due to my service, time in service, and I've lost the use of my hands
Okay.
for art and stuff like that. And so right after my session, I decided that I was going to start pursuing motorsports. It was something that I was extremely passionate about in my 20s. And it's something that I can still do, even being disabled, is I can still
Yeah.
drive. And so to be able to take the motorsports and partner it with the mental health stuff, and it's adrenaline driven, which a lot of veterans, they
Right.
thrive on adrenaline. So I think it's a great way to get the word out there. And for me, finding something that you're passionate about and something that gives you drive and helps you with your mental state, excuse me, helps you with your mental state, is vital to the process of thriving. There's living and then there's thriving, and I want to thrive. We're only here for a short period of time, and I want to
Yeah.
make the most of every minute. And so I always tell people, whatever it is, find your community, find people with similar interests, and find something that really lights a passion, and it will change. It will change the state of your mind, and finding resources like 220 will help you on that journey, because if your mind is a mess, it's hard to make any steps forward.
Right.
You get stuck, you dig in a hole and you get low. It takes something like that to kind of dig you out. So
Yeah, Tia, you really like unpacked a lot, and I really thank you for your vulnerability and really like sharing like the backstory of like how you gradually came to this point. And like if I can put it in two words, fed up. You got fed up, and after so many like push and pulls, you discover something that works for you, and you can proudly forward it to somebody else. And when I think about like hurdles, veterans like face and getting mental health care, like like the way you face it's like running an obstacle course, except like the obstacles are the bureaucracy that you spoke to, the stigma, and oh yeah, more bureaucracy. I mean, I seen like DMV lines move faster than some of these processes, and you describing it like perfectly, like you a good case study for this, and I like to talk about the red tape and the stigma that like veterans deal with, and what we can do to start cutting through that. Share like your take on like this, and what this maze can, how we can break down these walls of these mazes.
You know, honestly, I don't know. As far as the VA is concerned, um, that's one of those things where I feel like people are fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. And I'm like, you know what?
Mhm.
Why even worry about the VA? It'd be cool to make some changes there, but my long term goal is to start getting to where I'm monetizing the things that I'm doing to raise funding and stuff like that, to
Mhm.
start building some new places, like kind of like a wellness center,
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
could call it, like in every major city that veterans have access to for free. And then you could even have like civilians have access to it too, because I've gone on both sides of the road. I went and reached out to the civilian side, and the civilian side isn't much better. The
okay,
waits are
yeah,
ridiculous. I didn't feel like I connected really well with most of the doctors. It's almost like they listen to you for a few minutes and then they just start the guessing game with medication. And there's a lot of these great options that are non-medicated options, like natural healing things, but these things aren't covered by insurance, and most people are charging an arm and a leg to receive those things. So it's only the higher up financially stable people that can even afford those things.
yeah,
So to take some of those and integrate it into a new center, if the VA is continuing to push back and refuses to make these steps that would definitely elevate the mental health care system, then I say, all right, y'all do your thing. We're going to build something better. Because I mean, like, there's something called neurofeedback or
hmm
biofeedback. The VA has it on their website that it's available, and it's basically they hook up. a cap on your
Yeah.
head, and it deals with the brain waves. And it's supposed to be highly effective for all kinds of mental health disorders, from autism to ADHD to depression, anxiety, PTSD, all of these things. They say it's like going to the gym for your brain. And if you go to the gym, you get stronger. Well, if you go do this neurofeedback, your brain gets stronger. The neural pathways get to where they're communicating properly. And like I said, the VA claims that they offer it if you go on their website. But I have been trying to get that through the VA for probably at least 10 years. And I have yet to be introduced with anybody that can put me in the right place. So why not take those kinds of therapies? My approach to mental health is to decompress and to do all the natural processes first before you start trying to play into medication. Because, the mental health care system is literally, like I said, they listen to you for a few minutes, they assess you, and then they're like, all right, here, we're going to just start trying these medications on you, and hopefully one might help you. And I think there's a way better way to approach this. I'm surprised it's 2024 that we haven't made it farther in the mental health care system. But that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I believe that we can make a change. I believe if we get enough people together, that we can build a better system. Like I said, whether it's to integrate it into the VA, hopefully, because that's where a lot of veterans go for their for their health care, or if it just means, like I said, building a whole new system, and having that available to anybody that needs it. Because I mean, honestly, if you look at the jails and prisons, most of those people are struggling with some sort of mental health disorder, whether it be depression or anxiety and trauma that they've faced. Addiction most addiction derives from trauma. Homelessness. Most of our homeless vets are out there because they're suffering from some sort of PTSD or some sort of mental disorder. So if you imagine if we're able to change access to all of these things that could better our mental health care, all of these things across the board would benefit. If you look at all the violence that happens in the US, it's because our mental health is declining at a ridiculous rate. And to me, I don't know why mental health isn't at the top of the board of things that we need to fix. Because I feel like it's at the root cause of 90% of our issues.
Exactly.
So I'm here to raise awareness, to collect up resources and try to figure out what's the next step. What are we going to do about this? That's my main mission in my life, is to leave behind a legacy of bringing that change.
You're spot on, Tia, and you really nailed it with like the different demographics that's like really ailing with these issues, and why not have like a competing system that like can really help offset some of these wait times, some of this stigma, some of this pushback that we see. I think that'll go a long way, and 22-0 is like on point when it comes to this. It's changing the game, and we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about that. And before we do, talk about how 22-0 has changed the game, I got a quick pick stop for all you listeners and viewers. Don't worry, this is not your typical buy your this mattress moment. it's actually a twofold thing where I shout out today's sponsor, which is you, and then also another one. That's right. We gonna like keep the support that this show has alive, whether it's a like, a share, or just telling your neighbor, hey, check out Marcus Arts Podcast. It makes a world of difference. And check out Tia, of course. Now, let's take this quick break. We'll be right back. Time for a quick break, but this ain't your grandma's commercial, unless your grandma's secretly mastermind at making money while online shopping, then maybe it is, all right? But look, we all know adulting is expensive. Bills are just crazy, especially with this economy. Therapy bills, that organic kale you pretend to enjoy, it all adds up, folks. But if I told you that there's a way to earn passive income while your friends and family buy their cat pajamas online. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. This isn't some pyramid scheme, all right? It ain't that type of pyramid scheme where you're selling essential oils to your second cousin twice removed. This is legit, totally legit. In fact, I have made some money myself. You join, they shop, you earn. It's like a magical money tree, but instead of leaves, it grows down the bills. So if you're tired of that Roman noodle budget life and you want to support your mental and spiritual wellness without breaking the bank, check out the link below. Your wallet and your sanity will thank me a lot more sooner than what you think. Maybe I'll have a watch on. Maybe I should head to that site and see if I can find a watch. Now back to the show. Tia is here with us, and we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of all of this. 220 offers free PTSD sessions, free people, free, and we got the biggest advocate of it, and also who's been tested through it and gotten some real good benefits from it. And what's cheaper than the free trial? Okay, on those subscription services that.
What do you have to lose? Nothing.
Yeah, you keep on forgetting to cancel those things, but seriously though, yeah, I want you to break it down for us. What makes these sessions so effective? I mean, you talked to it before, but I love emphasizing, like why we aren't hearing about this on every major news outlet.
That
we just got to talking about it during the break.
It blows my mind that this hasn't just exploded. Like, hey, this session is saving the lives of thousands of veterans. Why is the VA giving any pushback to integrating this into their system? To me, I'm sorry, let me put it bluntly, but they don't care about our veterans. If they know that there's something out there that is free and is non-invasive and is 100% effective to the veterans, if I had any sort of policy on the VA's board, I would be like, heck yeah, that boom. Offer it to everybody. Put posters up on the wall. Send out flyers to all the veterans. Why? I hate to even get into the politics of it, but there is the whole big pharma discussion. I don't know if you want to get into that, but they push medication, and it's not just the VA. It's the United States mental or healthcare system. I mean, they get. I don't know the bureaucracy of it, but I know they're getting benefits to push these meds. And if they know that this session could get, even if it's 50% of their veterans off of mental health medication, what's that going to do with their partnership with the pharmaceutical companies? Yeah. So this may not be something that they will be willing to integrate into their system. And that's why, like I said, my goal is to start building a network of people and funding to start building these places that have all the resources available, so people can skip the line, they can skip the wait, and it'll be open 24 hours a day. So if somebody's going through a mental health crisis at 2:00 in the morning, that their only option isn't to go to the emergency room, because that can be stressful and that can deter somebody from getting help. So to know that there could be a peer, even a veteran, that has prior experience that's there that can sit down and talk to you and talk about your options, I feel like it'd make a world of difference.
Oh yeah, a ton of difference. And speaking of just like team sport, that's one thing I learned in life when it comes to healing, that it is a team sport and you can't do it alone. Trust me, I tried it.
Yeah, you can try.
It doesn't work. Spoiler work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yep. So, no. There's always when it comes to the brain.
Yeah.
Why would you want to try to fight that on your own when there's so many people out there that have resources and have, I mean, there is so many, we were talking about this, there's so many different therapies that don't include medication that are made to help support the brain and help develop the brain. So a lot of people don't know that the brain is one of the most malleable things that we have as far as being able to correct and to change, kind of like Play-Doh, if you would. It's extremely fixable. You know, a lot of people think that I'm too far gone. I was one of those people. I was like, I
Yeah.
have so much going on. There's no way that this is going to be fixed because I probably have 8 different things wrong with me. Nobody's ever going to figure this out, and I'm just doomed. And I think that's where a lot of people, they get so tired of the chase that they just give up. They stop talking about what they're going through and they start putting on a mask. And when they leave the house, it's all, hey guys, you know, you could even be out at the club. I mean, I can't tell you how many parties I went to, and I was out there smiling and chucking it up with my friends. And then I would go and get in my car and just break down and just nothing, just crying and just feeling completely hopeless. And so if those people don't know that there's anything wrong, they're not gonna reach out. They're not gonna offer you. They might know somebody that could help you, but they're not gonna know. Um, but you were wanting to talk about the effectiveness of this session. And let me tell you, I from the time I was little until I did this session, on average, I would say I got about 2 to 3 hours of sleep. I would wake up anywhere from 2 to 10 times a night, having nightmares. I would stay up as long as I could, avoiding going to sleep because I knew that if I went to sleep, that I was going to be facing some demons. I had nightmares about being chased, by being shot at, and it was constantly a traumatic feeling, you know, and waking up sweating and shaking and then not being able to shake the feeling that I got from those dreams. Like, why is this happening to me? You know, and it would damper my mood. And it was constant. I lived in a state of almost like psychosis because I was so tired all the time. I was extremely easily triggered. You know, and I feel awful about the way I acted. But I've come to terms with the fact that I was dealing with trauma. You know, that wasn't a character trait. I think a lot of people deal with that, feeling guilty about their demeanor and the things that they've done and the way they've felt and the way they've acted based on dealing with the trauma. But, and like I was saying, 40 years of nightmares and PTSD and anxiety, depression, I mean, no self-esteem, and to immediately eradicate the nightmares. That was the first thing I noticed. That I, in the last 2.5 years, have probably had enough nightmares to count on one hand. In 2.5 years, when I was having that many every single night, you know, and I think that's what makes this so powerful is that I was there. And that's one thing 220 does, is they train a lot of veterans to do these sessions. So you're not meeting with a doctor. You're not meeting with a civilian that has no idea what you've been through. A lot of these people have gone through this session or have gone through, you know, mental health struggles, and they know, and they've been through the military, so they understand. They are peers. And it makes it way easier knowing that you're reaching out to either somebody that was a veteran, somebody that loved a veteran, somebody that advocates for veterans. Like, these people truly care. When I'm not going to say nobody at the VA feels that way. There's a lot of veterans that volunteer there and that work there. But I've met a lot of people that this is just a job to them. You know, they're writing on their little pad and you don't feel like they're paying attention. I know I had a doctor that I went to for a couple years, and every single time I came to her, she asked me the same questions because she didn't remember who I was. You know, she asked me if I had any kids, and I'm like, I saw you 2 weeks ago and we already had this conversation. Now I'm kind of getting aggravated because I shouldn't have to tell you, you know, my whole life story every time I see you.
Right.
They're just not that passion. And with 22-0, that's all they do. They spend all of
Right.
their time meeting with veterans, meeting with councilmen people, meeting with the government, and pushing to try to make a huge change when it comes to helping the veterans and first responders that have put their lives on the line and their mental health on the line for the country, for people that we don't even know,
Yeah.
a world full of strangers. And most of us have been left with no options, and they're out there fighting for it. um but like I said, the session was quick. I like to tell people it was quick and painless. I got triggered maybe 2 or 3 times, but it was nothing. It was nothing. I wouldn't say it wasn't painful for me. It was very minute compared to many of the things that I've dealt with. And by the end of it, the things that triggered me at the beginning, they no longer triggered me. Like my coach had brought up something at the beginning, and then by the end of it, she brought it up again. She said, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "Huh, I feel fine." That's weird. That's something that's triggered me my whole life. And I'm better. Like, I mean, I remember going to a store for the first time and not being worried about what was behind me, being able
Mm-hmm.
to sit down at a restaurant and just enjoy my meal and not be prepared for some gunman to come through the door. And it kind of like blew me away for a moment. I'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, I'm enjoying myself too much. What is going on here? So
Yeah,
yeah,
I can believe that.
I just got off the phone with a veteran earlier before we started this, begging. I mean, I literally beg people. I'm like, please, if you could do anything, please go do the session. I promise you, it's not going to hurt you, but it has the opportunity to change your life, to save your life, to change the way your brain thinks, and to change the way you feel about yourself. There's no loss here. There's never been any negative side effects, but there's been 100% positive ones. So like I said, that's why I do this as often as I can. I get on these podcasts and I share this information because it is highly effective and it should be everywhere. And if you've watched this podcast, I would hope you would share this information with anybody and everybody that you can that could benefit from it.
I agree. And you spoke about, and I laughed earlier because, like, it is so many people out there that don't get it and don't want to understand, or they're just too busy wrapping themselves. But you spoke to, like, the importance of community, and what I'm hearing here is like community of just veterans and just good people, and uh, rather is veterans, civilians are good people. We got to get them to step up to the plate. I can't stress it enough. Like, community, community is so important, and I gotta repeat it. But veterans, civilians, and just good people. How do we get them to step up to the plate, and how can we get veterans themselves to start breaking the silence and finding their voice in this conversation, which is important.
Well, I think the first thing is just kind of what we're doing here is people like me and you that are sharing information, sharing our stories, and letting our voices be heard um, is a huge step in the right direction. I myself, I go to as many um, veteran veteran based events to share that in
Mm-hmm.
social media, to put on there like, hey man, let's break the silence. This is no longer there should no longer be stigma. There's so many people that are openly discussing mental health that this is not something to to be embarrassed about, or to have your ego be hurt because you've mentioned that that you're struggling. It's a part of being human. Our brains are extremely complicated, and if things aren't working right, it's like your car. Like, are you going to be embarrassed that your car is having issues? Like, no, you're going to take it to you're
No.
going to take it to a mechanic, or you're going to
Yeah.
fix it, or you're going to ask a buddy that that works on cars to give it a look over. And I feel like it's the same way. So us, emphasizing that this is not something to be ashamed of. Opening up that voice and getting out there, and Out into the community. Honestly, I mean, I don't know how to get the civilian world really to care as much as we will. But by sharing the things that we go through, I think it can help open their eyes that, I think a lot of people believe that veterans are taken care of, oh, they have all the resources in the world and they're fine. They don't need us. No, we need you. We need your resources. We need all of the things, because the resources we have, as good as they may be for some, my experience is the majority are not getting the help that they need. Either they're not getting it all, or it's a massive wait. I've heard of men waiting over a year just to get into the system. Luckily for me, women get in a little faster because we are the minority when it comes to the military. But to know that my brothers in the military are waiting a year just to see a doctor for the first time, that shouldn't be a thing. So yeah, just letting people know, like, hey, civilians can get involved too. You know, there's VFWs and stuff they're always having breakfasts and stuff. And I tell people all the time, like, if you're a civilian and you're interested in helping veterans, start going to some of these events. Go to the breakfast that they're having at the VFW. Just because you weren't a veteran doesn't mean you're not welcome to come and support. Yeah, I don't know. I do my part, and I try to instill it in as many people as possible to open their mouth. Just go on social media at just the minimum. Just go out on social media and let people know I'm a veteran, and I'm fighting for veterans. For veterans' rights, for veterans' support and benefits and whatnot. And we are struggling. Bringing honesty to the table is a big part of it. We were soldiers doesn't mean that we're invincible.
Exactly. And for people who just sitting there thinking like, Marcus, Tia, I'm not a veteran, so this isn't my lane. Let me remind you that like mental health is like traffic laws. You may not always think that they apply to you, but trust me, trust Tia, when someone's running a red light, we all affected. So we got to buckle up and pay attention, folks. And Tia, as we come to a close here, you've been given so much. You've given us so much today to think about. And before we wrap up, let's make sure our listeners leave with a game plan, especially coming off like what you just said, and then the whole traffic law thing too to put in there. We need a game plan, for the veterans, for the first responders tuning in, and what resources can they tap into right now, and what else, and for everyone else, how can they support incredible initiatives like 22-0?
Well, I would say for anybody that's been a veteran or first responder, it doesn't matter how you've been affected by your service, there's going to be some sort of effect on your mental health. And I believe everybody should take use of this resource. It's one of the greatest resources I've come across in my 42 years on this earth. Their website is the number 22 and then spelled out 0.org. They do have you have the ability to make donations on their website. So I would suggest anybody, even the smallest donation, every donation is going to go to helping veterans and first responders get these sessions and for people to be trained. So there are also, veterans out there that can be trained to do these sessions and give them a purpose and allow them to help their fellow vets. I do know the National Crisis Line is 988. I have called that line before, and they will give you a list of resources in your area for mental health if that's what you're needing. I believe they also have peer counselors that are available 24/7 to talk if you just need to talk to somebody and you don't feel comfortable talking to somebody that you know. But I would say the most important thing I could tell you is to build your circle, to find people with similar interests, to find, fellow veterans that you connect with and build your circle, because when you have people, in your life that make you feel good and like you go out and do things with, it just makes life better. To not stay silent. Silence is deadly. I don't care if it's your grandma, if it's your mom, your best friend, your neighbor, if it's you calling the helpline or reaching out to 220, reaching out to me, reaching out to you, reach out to someone. Make a post on Facebook. I'm telling you, I have I don't talk about it often, but I have peer counseled thousands of people on Facebook just by seeing posts that they have made saying that they were struggling and that they didn't know if they could keep, if they could keep going. Make a post and say, I'm really struggling and I could use some help. I promise you somebody out there is going to reach out, and you're going to come to find you may make new friends, you may get resources that you need, but you're going to find out that you're not alone. And I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to this, is that knowing that you're not alone and that somebody else out there cares. And I can tell you right now, I don't know any of your listeners, but I care about all of them. I care about humanity. I care about every one of my veterans as if they were my brother and my sisters. So somebody out there cares. You're worthy of the fight. And it's worth reaching out. Like I said, 220 will get back to you very quickly and get you in. And if I could stress one thing, it's for everybody to utilize this session, because it is absolutely life-changing and 100% effective. Like I said, you don't have to rehash all those details and stuff that a lot of people are afraid of doing, and it's still going to be just as effective. And and I hope anybody that's watched this will get this information out. I think most people know at least one veteran or police officer or firefighter that could, if they, let's say they don't need it, but they're going to know somebody that does. I rarely find anybody that doesn't tell me, oh, I know somebody that's struggling right now. And it's like, sweet, get them this information. Let's be the change. Let's all become a community and come together. I think division is so old school. I think it's
yeah, that's like, fossil time now.
Like, I don't care if you wore the uniform. I don't care what color you are. We are all here trying to live our best lives, and coming together is only going to make everything better. So
I'm definitely inspired myself, and I'm definitely going to reach out, because like I'm getting that grief factor now. Like, I want to try it.
Absolutely. And see, the best part about it is, no matter how minute the effect may be, some people may have this astounding effect, some maybe have a little. But if you go through the session and you get to tell people, man, it wasn't bad. Like, it was super easy. And I've felt a little bit lighter since I did this. And then you become a catalyst to help. So, like, it's the domino effect. And like I said, that's why I'm here. I'm giving it to you so that you can give it to others, and we can grow and we can all heal. I think one of the best things I've seen recently, a guy I went and did some outreach with, he had a tattoo on the back of his neck and it said, "Healed people heal people." And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm here for. Because when I was in the deepest the deepest parts of my darkness, as many people as I was helping, like, that was one thing that got me through, was I was reaching out to people that were struggling and helping them, even though I was like barely hanging on. But I know that I'm helping way more people now because I give them hope that things can get better, that you can go through the depths of hell, per se, in your mind, and come out on the other side. And to share your story can be the guide for somebody else that's feeling lost. So, and we're doing it right now, which is awesome. I love
it. So, to my listeners and viewers, if you've been inspired today like I have, and I know you have, because this is probably like one of my best episodes to
Oh,
date this year. Got so much out of it, and I don't want anyone to let this just be another episode where you listen and you forget. Don't forget to take action. Whether it's reaching out to 22-0, sharing this episode with someone who needs it, or just starting a conversation about mental health. We all can make a difference. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it does start with one step. Or if you try 22-0, you might walk away and feel some transformation and further your path on that transformational journey. Or in this case, just one episode, is the first step. So, as I wrap this up for the day, my Transform You family with Tia, you've been an absolute rock star. Don't let nobody tell you that you're not, because you definitely are. And I'm truly inspired, and just can't wait to dig into what you shared and get this out. I thank you for sharing your story, your insights, most importantly, your heart. To my listeners, if today's episode moved you, once again, do me a favor, subscribe, leave a review, and share this with your network. And as always, keep striving for transformation in every area of your life. Until next time, this is Marcus Hart with my new best friend and sister, Tia, reminding you to be kind to yourself, take care of your mental health, and as always, keep it moving. And blessings, peace, and lots of love.
I stand for what you stand for. I'm at your door like the landlord. I can see the future, yeah, I fast forward. I get on the mic and I transform. Follow me, I'm in rare form. Follow me on this world tour, the asteroid that you can't avoid.